As I've been like trying to source equipment and stuff for the bar, it's like I'll also just like occasionally pull up whatever equipment manufacturer's website and be like, what do they have that's new that I haven't seen? You know what I mean?
What do they got today?
Go down a rabbit hole and 5 hours later.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a constant struggle to keep up with what everyone's doing.
Welcome to the Ignite Culinary 360 podcast. I'm Chef Robert.
I'm Chef Ryan.
And I'm Chef Luke. On today's episode, we'll be chatting with Denver restaurateur and bar star Stuart Jensen. I had the pleasure of hiring Stuart for one of his first kitchen jobs ever as a line cook at a restaurant up in Boulder. Stuart became a really good friend of mine. It's been fun to watch him really grow in the industry. Stuart has now since worked at and opened various kitchens throughout the Denver area and eventually gradually made his way into the bar. After managing and running some of the funnest and coolest, most innovative bar programs in the area, he connected with the Curio bar in the Denver Central Market and quickly was brought on to be a partner and opened up Rogers Liquid Oasis in the Edgewater neighborhood of Denver and provides a lot of different options in a really big kind of food hall type of environment. He's a wealth of knowledge, really about anything that has to do with the bar. If I ever have a question or an idea around bar or anything with a cocktail, Stuart is definitely my first stop. All right, that's enough with me. Let's hear it from Stew Daddy himself.
Stew Daddy.
Stew Daddy.
Ooh.
Stuart.
Hi, Luke.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
I just have to say, I really like your sound setup in the background there already.
Oh, thank you.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah, my soon-to-be wife is a little bit fed up with the amount of stereo equipment in our house right now.
You're like, just let me live my life.
I might have a little bit of a problem.
There's much worse things to have a problem
Yeah,
with.
certainly.
That's true.
Well, just wait. Once she gets the ring on her finger, then she's going to be like, okay, this is what stays. This is what goes.
Oh, yeah. Clear the house.
I have a storage closet in the basement where I keep all of my things that weren't supposed to stay. It's called the sad room.
No.
Oh, poor Luke.
All right. Well, let's get this going. So my wife and I were going on a date. We never went out because our schedules were so different. My wife's a teacher and I was working in restaurants. My first thought was to reach out to Stuart because I knew that he was working at this place. It's called the Green Russell. And I really wanted to go there. I'd never been there before. It was so much fun. So just like watching Stuart do what he does, like I've always been a fan of, I want to say like the theater of restaurants, and whether that be in the bar or the kitchen or whatever it is, like it's fascinating to me, just like people that love doing what they're doing, or at least are really good at what they do and enjoy doing it. It's almost like an aura that's around them. And so watching Stuart do his thing, like it was a blast for me to be able to see him really thriving in the whole front of the house bar world. It was sad for me too because he wasn't a cook anymore, but you're dead to me now, Stuart, because you're no longer a cook.
Part of it for me was I don't know. I kind of came to a realization that like I could maybe be a okay chef someday, but I didn't feel like I was gonna really thrive in that world. And I just felt like I had a better fit and a better opportunity doing what I was doing in front of house there for a while.
I think I've told everybody, but I met Stuart a long time ago up in the Boulder, Colorado area. I had the pleasure actually of hiring Stuart to be a line cook in a restaurant. And I correct me if I'm wrong, Stuart, was this your first ever line cook job?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
I started there with, basically no experience. I think I actually worked there for free for a little while until you guys actually offered to pay me to be there.
That would have been somebody else. I wouldn't have done that.
But yeah, that was my first real cooking job.
How old were you then?
I was actually trying to remember that this morning. I think that I started there just before my 22nd birthday. So will have been 18 years ago.
Were you coming out of school from doing something else, or what were you doing?
I was in school, and I was working at this natural grocery store there it's called Wild Oats. Got bought up by Whole Foods eventually. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I just asked everyone on Pearl Street for a job in a kitchen where I could come and hang out, and they were the first ones to give me a shot.
And Luke's like, I'll do it. Please, I'm desperate. No.
Well, that's why he made you work for free.
To be fair, in the beginning, I was the one benefiting from that arrangement, I think, Yeah, there were some really great people there, some really talented people, and I really got to learn quite a lot very quickly from those guys. So
You did a lot of the ceviche prep. So
oh my God,
Stuart
so
got
much
to-
fucking ceviche, like so much fish scraps every day, fish scraps.
But it's a way to really hone your knife skills.
Yeah.
And for somebody that didn't have a ton of experience, like that is actually a fantastic spot to start, because you get a really good base for how to hold a knife, how to use a knife, how to sharpen a knife, how to manage a station with many ingredients on it, right?
Yeah, I think it's also a good way to learn how to balance flavors,
Mm-hmm.
spice and heat and citrus and fat and salt and all those things. That was a really good way to learn, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, fortunately wasn't on the ceviche station forever. A while, but
Yeah. Right.
I love those days when you have a cut in your hand and
Ooh.
you're squeezing lemons or limes.
Oh my
and
gosh.
your hands are just tingling.
That might be even worse now that I'm more on the beverage side of things. But
Right. Well, that's a good transition. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your transition from the back of the house to the front of the house.
I guess at the time I was working for a chef and restaurant owner who was very, very talented as a chef. But I started to realize that he wanted to, control this entire restaurant, manage front of house, manage the bar, all these things. And he just didn't have a lot of the tools to do it. And I wanted to have a restaurant someday. So I thought I'd at least like to know how to, wait tables, learn a little bit about wine, beverages, thinking it would make me a better chef and restaurant owner someday.
Like a restaurateur, yeah.
But I really didn't initially plan on exiting the kitchen altogether.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I got a part-time job waiting tables and at like a kind of wine-centric restaurant, and I got to learn a little bit about wine that way. Got a bar back job at a cocktail bar in Denver, and that was kind of my first intro to like bartending and cocktails. I just really enjoyed it. I think at the time there weren't a lot of people in the bar industry that had like a culinary background. So I think that I was able to do really well. For one, I had a background in like costing recipes, which no bartenders could do, So as a bar back there, I was like, oh my God, you guys are getting smoked on cost here, So I didn't stay a bar back for very long there. I was quickly like costing their menu and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there was just a lot of opportunity at that time in Denver for people in the bar world. The cocktail thing was just kind of really starting to gain momentum in Denver at the time. I think I had kind of a back of house work ethic that was helpful, and just kind of a bank of recipes and knowledge of flavor combinations that helped me be successful that way.
It is really crazy how like being culinary can be driven in the bar too, because it's just like you're mixing flavors, you're coming up with things. Then next thing you know, you're doing cocktails with food. So it's like, even if it's a simple burger, but it could be like, oh, it has arugula and this rare goat cheese, and you're like, I have a perfect cocktail for that.
Yeah, I think that it's helpful to know what flavors go together, right? Like even when I make cocktails now, I think mostly about like food recipes, and it's like, these things go together in this dish, so surely they'll go together in this cocktail. In cocktails for a long time, it was just like, sour and sweet. And people were like, little lemon juice, little sugar. But now I think people are more in tune with adding, a little more complexity through, spice or even like salt in a cocktail or
botanicals.
Yeah, the custom bitters.
Yeah, totally. So it's like, how do you create a little bit more depth and complexity by layering in other flavor components,
So let's say, give me some of your highlights from, I don't know, some of the places along your journey, some of the restaurants, bars, things like that. Leading up to, before ownership for you, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
What kind of got you there?
Yeah, so I guess you kind of touched on working at Green Russell. Yeah, I think that was a really nice place to start. At the time, we were making all these bitters in house, and we had Kleinbell machines, and we're making these giant ice blocks, and I was cutting them with a chainsaw, and we were, cutting ice cubes to order, and some of that seems like a little bit silly and inefficient looking back
I remember
now,
that.
but
that was super. It was super cool.
It was really kind of like an intensive place to get to learn. We had all kinds of ingredients that a lot of places didn't have, and a really talented group of people that all went on to do some really amazing things in the industry. So I feel lucky to get to work with a lot of those people at the time I did. It was also nice to get a little bit more insight into, the business aspect of bars and restaurants. I'd really only seen that on the kitchen side. So getting to see, P&Ls for a whole bar and restaurant was really, really helpful. Mm. I left that job to be the opening bar manager at Mercantile. They were opening in Union Station, and that was really kind of my first time getting to conceptualize a beverage program. And I think that we really took a lot of those kind of culinary approaches to what we were doing there. We were using fresh ingredients from the farm that Alex had at the time, and, finding some different ways to incorporate like some kitchen technology and things, into what we were doing. We made these like jarred cocktails that we would seal in the combi oven and kind of infuse flavors that way. And so I think it was a fun way to kind of combine a lot of my culinary background with like the beverage side. And it was a good opportunity because it was a big opening for Denver. Union Station getting redeveloped was huge, and it was a fun time for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of people had worked for Alex, so yeah, you have a lot of industry people.
Yeah. Even
though Mercantile's fine dining, that had to have been volume.
Oh, yeah. Especially in those opening days.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
And, at that time, it was 3 meal periods every day. It was breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Wow.
Some very long days and some very stressful days there for a while.
So was that a lot of brunch cocktails then?
A lot of brunch cocktails. We had like a coffee component, and there were baristas, so we made like coffee cocktails and things like that as well.
Nice.
And we also had we had a really incredible team there. A lot of those guys are, still my best friends. We actually went out a couple nights ago for my bachelor party, and we're kind of reminiscing about those Mercantile days. So again, a lot of people that went on to do some really cool other things. So it's a good time to be there.
So you mentioned, you were making, pre-making cocktails utilizing the combi oven. So walk me through this, because now I'm going to start doing this.
Yeah, that sounds so interesting.
When Mercantile opened, there was this really big emphasis on like preservation, basically. So pickling and jams and homemade giardiniera and all these things that they would make and then jar and sell in the kind of market side of the restaurant. And so we were trying to find ways to kind of, tell a little bit of that story through cocktails as well. So yeah, one of the things that we did was, we'd have like a seasonal kind of old-fashioned cocktail on the menu, and we'd get, a ton of peaches, for example, and make like a peach whiskey, and we would then put it in these little like 4-ounce ball jars, with a bunch of different spices and aromatics, and build a cocktail in there, but using more like real ingredients rather than just cordials and liqueurs and things like that. And cook them in the oven on that steam function, so it would create a seal. And I guess kind of like you would use like a cryovac machine for, what I mean?
Right.
Just to kind of more quickly infuse flavor in them. And we'd make a, boatload of those ahead of time and let them sit for a couple days to kind of steep. And then we we made these little strainer tops with just like window screen and the outer lid of the jar.
Nice.
My team hated those things. Like, you're always cutting the screen and cutting your fingers, and the servers would throw them away. We were all, anyways. But yeah, I would pop the top off of those things, screw on the other little thing, and would pour them table side on like an ice cube for them. And I think that was kind of one of our signature offerings there for a little while.
That's so kitchen doing that.
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, we're always doing crazy little things in the kitchen that normal people would be like, what are you doing?
I'll tell you who hated it the most. the line cooks when they were trying to use that oven in the middle of their prep or whatever, and I'm coming back here with 4 sheet trays of cocktails to put in the oven, and they're trying to steal them and hide them in their station. It's a constant battle with those cooks back there.
Hey, Luke, what was it that you made recently? You sous vide'd a bunch of stuff in a bag, and then you low temp cooked it for something.
Yeah. So, Stuart, you probably don't even know this, but that day that I went to see you at the Green Russell, I was kind of like I want to say like inspired by like what you were doing and the bar world and everything that goes on. I really started to think like, all right, bitters, like this could be a place where I could expand my knowledge and learn.
Sure.
So I started to do some research on how to make, tinctures and bitters and things like that. And I started to make burnt orange bitters is what I call what I make. But yeah, I used our vacuum sealer. Helps kind of speed up the process. I mean, my original process, I think it was like at least 6 weeks or 8 weeks long to really get the infusion right and get enough of everything. But I was able to turn that around in like, I want to say like 4 hours, maybe something like that. So it was pretty cool. I will say, I think I picked up some things from just watching you, if not just some inspiration. It was awesome.
Yeah, those cryovac machines are really an amazing tool.
Right.
At my 2 bars right now, we're a little bit short on space, and it's not something that we have. And I had another bar previously that we closed towards the end of COVID, but we had a cryovac machine there, and man, that thing was invaluable. Look forward to having another one again someday.
You're going to once a week show up at Luke's kitchen and start vacuum
Yeah.
sealing stuff.
He seems to have like the ultimate cryovac machine. I remember being pretty excited about that when I was there.
He's like, you said anytime.
I'm down.
Give you your own key.
Let's think about what happened next for you. So you're working at the Mercantile. That was going well. I'm sure the idea of like either consulting or taking a next step in your career was coming up in your mind. What was going on for you?
Yeah, I think I just kind of hit that point everybody hits where you kind of get tired of working for other people, and eventually got linked up with my current business partners. Doing that, I met them as they were getting ready to open Curio in the Denver Central market. Yeah, we just pretty quickly had a really great working relationship, and I ended up staying on there as kind of an operating partner. Yeah, I took on a percentage of ownership there, and we opened that bar, I think like 7.5 years ago, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
And yeah, that was another cool opening. It was kind of as that whole Rhino neighborhood was starting to come around with a bunch of cool restaurants and things like that. I guess a few years into that, I obviously kind of wanted to do my own thing, and had talked to them about opening another place. And so we partnered on a bar downtown called Tacks that was at 16th and Blake. Opened that space, which was, very different than like the food hall concept, standalone bar and food and all of that.
Right.
And shortly after that, we opened Rogers Liquid Oasis over in the Edgewater public market. So another kind of high volume food hall.
Who's Roger?
Roger is this elephant in Edgewater that trampled this kid to death. And the legend for a long time.
Wow, Luke. Wow, everybody. Wow.
It's worth looking up the newspaper article. So I don't know if you know this, but Sloan's Lake over there, Edgewater, was like the first big like amusement park in the West.
Okay.
And yeah, they had this elephant there named Roger, and he like broke free one day and trampled this kid. The newspaper article from the time is amazing. So it's written in this like really flamboyant, like Victorian style of journalism. And it's like the mothers were shrieking as the kid's head was mushed like a melon,
Oh my gosh.
It's really funny. Anyways, the story was that the dad like wanted vengeance on the elephant. And so they killed him and buried him underneath where our bar is.
Oh my gosh. For real?
I think it's been debunked by now, but that was like the neighborhood lore for a really long time. Was that the elephant was buried under? It used to be a King Soopers. And so when we were opening that space, the developer was like, would really like to kind of incorporate this Rogers name into the bar.
Yeah.
Sure,
On that note,
those are the spaces. Got Curio and Rogers right now, which are both just really high volume, kind of neighborhood cocktail bars. Brass Tacks, we ended up closing just towards kind of the end of the pandemic when downtown was really having a hard time. And
what did you have to do to get through the pandemic? Were you doing to-go cocktails, or what was going on in your business?
We tried that for a while, and it wasn't ever really a viable thing for us. Like, people were excited about it for a minute. We closed for a little while. We did our best to kind of abide by all of the constantly changing rules and things. But that was honestly the hardest part about it. Is we'd built and designed that bar to be like one of the old buildings down there. So it was a big, high ceilinged, open kind of shotgun space, and everybody was always standing around and hanging out with friends. And once we kind of had to transition to like sit down restaurant, it just kind of didn't feel like the same thing that everybody had fallen in love with there, So yeah, I think some places were able to thrive, that were able to do a lot of like delivery food and things like that. But yeah, it was just a struggle for us down there. I think that certainly we all learned a lot from it, and I think a lot of positive conversations about the restaurant industry came out of that.
I feel like piggybacking on the COVID thing, they expanded patios so people in restaurants could do better. Well, try to like do better for outside eating areas and stuff. But then they kind of just kept it of like, let's keep growing off this because people are liking it.
Yeah, or being able to sell like, retail alcohol in a bar or restaurant space is sometimes really helpful. Like, I don't want to be a liquor store, but occasionally like we would get private barrels of whiskey that would get for the bars, and being able to sell someone a bottle of that when they enjoy it is like a nice thing that we didn't used to be able to do.
That's cool.
Or being able to order liquor deliveries and things like that with your to-go food is helpful. So yeah, I hope a lot of those things stay around.
Yeah, all three of us travel a fair amount for this job that we have, and a lot of times, I'm a solo diner, so I sit at the bar and I order my meal, and a lot of times I'll look at the wine list and I'll be like, can I order a bottle of wine and not consume the whole thing and then leave with it? And they're like, yeah, we'll cork it and we have to put it in this bag. And, so it gets me to buy the bottle of wine, which is the better wine that I really wanted.
Totally.
But I'm also really helping the restaurant too, because now, I'm spending a little bit more on that bottle of wine instead of just, a glass or two of the house stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it encourages you not to like overindulge, right? It's not like, I have to finish this wine before I leave or else I'm wasting my money. Yeah. I think it actually encourages people to drink less, So yeah, I hope that we continue to become a little bit more mature as a state and a country about some of those conversations, It's always interesting when you have like friends from Europe here or something, and they're like, just cannot wrap their head around the way that Americans are with alcohol, But yeah, I think those have been some really positive changes that have stayed.
All right, well, Stuart, I know you've got some new stuff in the works. You want to share with us what you can? I don't know, about your project you're working on right now.
Yeah, I got a cool opportunity to open another like standalone cocktail bar. It's near a music venue in Denver. So I'm excited about that. I really love music. Hopefully towards the end of this year, we'll be open.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm like in the final stages right now of our attorneys arguing about leases and, bank finalizing a loan and kind of all of the admin stuff that is the least enjoyable part of this whole process.
Right.
What area in Denver? Can you give out any clues?
Yeah, it's right next to Mission Ballroom.
Oh, sweet.
Will be a, relatively small, kind of higher end cocktail bar, catered to people going to shows, as well as, a lot of the people that are moving to that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, I'm really excited about it. I have really missed having a bar like with walls where you can really curate 100% of the experience that people are having, food hall experience is great for a lot of reasons, but being able to control every aspect and from the music to the lights to the style of service and all those sorts of things is an aspect of the industry that I've really missed. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, excited for that to happen, and we'll have kind of a higher end seated style of service in the bar. Hopefully people make a reservation before going to a show and come have a nice cocktail. And then we're also going to put a walk-up window on the outside of it. So if you're waiting in line to get into the show, you can get a quick draft cocktail or a beer.
Nice. That'd be rad.
So yeah, kind of two different experiences.
That's awesome.
Whatever you're looking for. If you want something quick and fast and easy, before going to the show, we'll have that. Or if you want to, take your partner out for a nice date ahead of a concert.
Are you thinking about doing food too?
No food. We're gonna have restaurants on either side of us. It's in a larger building, and there's a restaurant on either side, and we're gonna kind of facilitate some food service from those guys, but no kitchen in our space.
Yeah, that window, that's an interesting concept. Most places I've lived, you can't have anything outside of the building, and it's even hard to have sidewalk cocktails or anything like that. And
yeah, Denver's it'll still have its limits, but Denver's evolving that way a little bit. Similar license to what we have at Edgewater Market. It's called a common consumption license, where you basically have each bar or restaurant will have their own individual liquor license, and then you get a overlapping license for everyone that has a shared space. And there's certain rules you got to follow about it, but basically you can get drinks from these 3 or 4 different places and hang out in sort of a communal space, which will be the kind of plaza out there while you're waiting to go into the venue. So
that's such a cool idea.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I don't know. I feel like liquor laws can be pretty antiquated sometimes. So it's nice to see that Denver's kind of embracing a little bit of that.
What kind of I guess not really kitchen equipment, but hospitality equipment are you bringing into the bar that might be new or experimenting with and things?
Even since opening our previous bars, there's a lot more options in bar equipment than there used to be. I think there's some manufacturers that are really offering some setups that are significantly more enjoyable from a employee standpoint to make your job more comfortable and efficient. I'm a bartender too, and we want it to be a place where people actually enjoy working. It's comfortable. They have everything they need at their fingertips, and trying to set it up to maximize efficiency, because we're going to be very much. Our schedule is dictated by a concert schedule, right? So it's a massive rush where everybody has to leave and go to the show at the same time.
Then it's over.
And then it gets out, and hopefully some of them come back and it's busy again. So
I mean, I feel like you guys are going to be busy. Let's be honest. Next to the Mission Ballroom.
I think that we're kind of trying to build our program around things that are, prep intensive on the back end, so that we can move along service up front, which I guess is something that we've always focused on. We've focused a lot on draft cocktails and things like that, where a lot of work goes on behind the scenes to make it really easy for people during service. So I think we'll have some continuity there. And then, I mentioned we're going to have this walk-up window where you can serve cocktails to people that are in line and outside, and really separating that from the rest of the space. It's essentially a back of house space, and as far as the health department's concerned, it is a back of house space. So we're kind of making that a behind the scenes area where a lot of that stuff can happen out of view of the guest.
Right.
And there's always new stuff to play around with and try to keep up on. I got a couple of Spinzalls delivered to my house yesterday that I'm really excited to play around with. Not something I've really experimented with. Do you guys know about these?
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
What's a Spinzall?
Do you know who Dave Arnold is? He's a food scientist in New York City. He's had a couple of bars, but he got really into figuring out how to utilize technology in food and beverage, and has kind of designed a few of his own products. So it's It's a centrifuge, basically made for home, where, for a while bartenders were like buying, used like hospital centrifuges, which is kind of gross.
Yeah.
And very expensive. So he invented a home one that basically like separates solids from liquids. So, for example, you can make a clarified tomato water to use in cocktails, or, things of that nature. Basically a way to clarify juices and cocktails and things like that. So
That's going to be rad.
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, I'm stoked about that one.
I saw a clear margarita done the other day online where somebody had clarified the lime juice. I don't know how they did that. And so it looked like water, but it was a margarita because of what they had done to...
There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can use the oldest, most traditional way is like a milk punch, right? You use milk, curdle the solids, strain that off, and it's, I don't know, kind of like you would make like a consomme or something. Right?
Yeah.
So, people have been doing that since, I don't know, late 1800s, early 1900s. But you can also use, like gelatins and things like that to clarify fruit juices. But a centrifuge is a really good way to do it. You can also kind of reverse engineer citrus juices with like citric and malic acid, and it's never quite the same, but you can get something that tastes pretty close to a lime juice, Yeah, in certain applications, it makes a lot of sense.
So I want to piggyback too on your draft cocktails. Are you doing them in kegs? I take it, of course, but like,
yeah.
Do you have a company you're doing it with? Or are you kegging them yourself?
No, we make them in-house. Something we started doing at Tacks and kind of perfected our method there. And, the whole thing really initially started less as like a speed of service thing and more because we were trying to make more carbonated cocktails. You always get these call-in style cocktails where it's like, oh, we'll top it with a little soda. And it's like, it's just never that crisp. You know what I mean?
It's like, oh, it's flatter.
Yeah. So we really just wanted to like take that to the ultimate and be like, how like crispy can we make this?
Right. Fully carbonated.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was a process to kind of figure out all the ins and outs of it. To be honest with you, it took a good couple of years. There's a lot of things that don't like to carbonate. There are a lot of obstacles to carbonating things. A lot more science in it than, I even understand. But through a lot of trial and error, we kind of figured it out. And, we still make the same cocktails that we would make if we're making them to order. They're fresh citrus juice. They're, house-made ingredients, just made in large batches. And then we very carefully filter everything. Most of them are, force carbonated. We've used different things like gas infusers, like on the lines near the taps and things like that to try and get better results. But yeah, it's been a fun process. I would say it's definitely one of the things that we've kind of been known for at the last couple of bars. And the nice thing about it that I didn't really anticipate is that it gets a lot of people to drink cocktails that wouldn't normally. Especially like men. There's a lot of dudes that feel like they're being like fussy. Especially like, downtown, you get people going to like a sporting event or something. You're like, well, I don't want you like making me this whole thing,
Right.
But if you can pour it out of a tap like a beer, they feel better about it. And so we really like got a much broader audience and got people drinking cocktails that they normally wouldn't order, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I was on a food beverage tour in Chicago some years back, and we went to a place that had Nitro margaritas, or I think that's what it was. And I remember being like fascinated by the concept of it. Just the different ways to experience, some of the classic cocktails, like you were saying, with their fully carbonated Collins. And this for me was it was like the creamiest texture of margarita I think I'd ever had. It was actually awesome. I think about it often.
Yeah, it's cool to be able to change textures like that. We had some Nitro lines at Tacks where we did some of that too. We had this peanut infused bourbon and cola with like a little bit of Fernet and chocolate. Peanuts and Coca-Cola is like a southern thing, and we would force nitrogenate it, and then you push it with like a gas like you would a Guinness. Like a Guinness gas has a little bit of CO2 in it, and the CO2 bouncing off the nitrogen gives it that like cascading effect that we all love in a Guinness.
Yeah.
So yeah, like having that texture and that appearance in a cocktail is really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it, you know, it's fun to give people stuff that like they can't make at home and they can't get anywhere else. You know, anybody can make a margarita at home. You know, at least that's okay. But you know, you can't recreate that.
No, definitely not.
We had somebody come in here. It was a bar, and they wanted to test Jack and Coke out of the frozen beverage machine, and it's like, but you lose all that carbonation that you were just talking about.
Yeah,
just to have a Coke flavored Jack Daniel's slushy.
Well, I don't know. Slurpee Coca-Colas are pretty good.
Slurpee machines are different. So we have one at Rogers. It's a funny story. Me and my business partner, kind of after getting on this draft cocktail kick, we were like nerding out over how Slurpee machines work. So like, why is a Slurpee different than a frozen drink machine? And it's because they're connected to CO2 and they're carbonating as they're freezing, and you get this big fluffy texture. So we had actually tried to like look at buying a Slurpee machine and like make our own before there was one available. And like at one point we had even talked to the guys at Taylor, and we were like, can we do this? Like, will it work? You know, like, no, you don't want to do that, you know? And like a year later, they released the exact same thing that we had been asking them about.
Lawyer.
They stole your idea and took it.
I mean, they might have already been in development, but we independently had that idea and brought it up with them. And they, very much released that thing shortly thereafter. But anyways, it's a cool machine. It pulls from a keg also, so you can hook it up to a corny keg of cocktail. And it's connected to CO2, and you can carbonate things ahead of time. And as it freezes in the machine, it carbonates as well. So you get this fluffy texture, and it is kind of crispy as you're drinking it.
Crazy.
That's cool. Yeah.
But,
So Stuart, when you're like researching this equipment to put into either maybe you need something new for something you want to try, or like, you know, you needed to research the equipment for your new bar. Do you go to trade shows? Like I know the bar show just was in Vegas, or do you do like, you know, the restaurant show in Chicago, or how do you find out about this gear? Because some of this stuff is, you know, we all know what the gun is to shoot the Coke,
right?
But you know, your centrifuge and, you know, I mean, any of that stuff. How do you find this out?
I would say that the biggest like trade conference in the bar world is Tales of the Cocktail in New Orleans. So generally go to that every year, and that's a good place to kind of find out what people are doing. And I haven't ever done any of the big like restaurant trade shows like that. I think as much as anything else, like you keep up with stuff like that now via like social media. You know what I mean? It used to be like magazines and stuff, but now it's, you know, media is all on Instagram and via email and things like that. So, you know, there's a couple of great publications in the beverage world that I think are helpful to keep up with stuff like that. Punch Drink is probably the most popular. And they, you know, gather information from all over the world about what people are doing and new equipment and new recipes and techniques and things like that. You know, I'm kind of nerdy about that stuff, so I'll also just like occasionally pull up whatever equipment manufacturer's website and be like, what do they have that's new that I haven't seen? You know what I mean?
Right.
Go down a rabbit hole, and 5 hours later.
Yeah, I mean, even through this process, like as I've been like trying to source equipment and stuff for the bar, it's like I'll talk to one of the distributors or, you know, groups like yourselves, and occasionally people are like, I've never heard of that. I'm like, well, you know, they have it. It exists. Like, can we find out about it, you know? But I don't know. It's kind of a constant struggle to keep up with what everyone's doing. And I don't know. I guess that's probably one of the most valuable things about social media, just how much easier it is to see what, you know, a bartender in Singapore is doing right now or whatever, you know.
Easily accessible, but it's free. You know, I think like that's...
Totally. And it's in like easily digestible little snippets. I don't have to read a whole article about it, right? It's a picture of this thing, a short description, and, you know, then if I want to learn about it, I can. But it's
not an 80-page manual.
Yeah. And, you know, YouTube videos, obviously, like you can learn to do anything on YouTube.
That's right.
But yeah, you know, a big part of it too is just like being willing to try and fail a bunch of times before you figure it out, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, it's my life story.
Yeah.
If you're not trying and failing, you're not trying.
We've all had those dishes that were conceptually really great that never
That
panned
never
out the way
worked
that
out.
we thought, Sometimes you just got to let them go.
Yeah, it's done.
Right?
There goes your bonus on
Yeah.
food costs.
Right. See now, guys. See why Stuart's so amazing. It's like I want to be Stuart when I grow up. This is what I've realized.
I don't know. A lot of my friends say I'm never going to grow up. I still feel like,
That's that's the draw. I think.
Yeah, maybe so. One of my
Yeah.
friends calls me Peter Pan because I'm like perpetual kid, but
It's nice.
No, I think this has been really fun and really great, and I understand some of your challenges as a bar owner a little bit better now.
Right.
no, thank you guys so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking with y'all, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that was really cool with Stu. What I really dug was, there's nowadays, there's so much that you can take from the back of the house, from the kitchen, and bring into the bar. The infusions,
Right.
technology, so many of those things started out when, going back, when was the molecular gastronomy thing,
2014.
And right. We were all getting into hydrocolloids and all this other kind of goofy crap. But, it kind of shook it out. We figured it out. And now, they've been, the bar's been taking some of that stuff and probably even leading the charge with
Yeah,
a
I
whole
would think
bunch
so.
of new technology.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun hearing about the centrifuge. The separating of solids and liquids for cocktail purposes. I feel like I had seen a video on Instagram at one point of something like that, but I had no idea. I had not put it all together until Stuart started talking about it.
Yeah, and going off with like the draft cocktails and everything like that, it's just, as he was saying, like it brings a lot more people into places like that. It's cool to see because you can still get the bar atmosphere and they can be making other cocktails for other people.
Yeah.
But somebody who doesn't necessarily want to wait for a craft cocktail to be made and get that and still have the same experience, I think that's a really important thing, like these new age deals coming out and being next to a music venue like that. Like,
Yeah, I know.
a quick
can't wait for
cocktail,
this.
cool. Run across, get one,
Crush it.
Yeah.
I thought that was really fun having him on, Luke. It was really cool hearing about your story with him and getting him kind of in the industry all around with that type of stuff, and then him kind of growing into that person that he's become into and open up his own places is really cool to hear about. So
Yeah, it was fun to reconnect with him for sure.
I guess that will take it from us at our Culinary 360 podcast. Again, I'm Chef Ryan.
And I'm Chef Luke.
And I'm Robert.
And we will be in your kitchen soon.
If we're not already in your kitchen.
I could be in the pantry.
Hey, wait a minute. Who's over there?